All right, guys, let's kind of go through this and combine the two things. Let's combine the cash game aspect with building and pivoting for single entry and 3 max, just to help you get into my head. I am not God's gift to tournament play and DFS, but I'm fundamentally sound. I understand the concepts of when to do what and all that good stuff. So if I've set up my player pool with my 2 uniques and whatever else, and I've got 24 players in it. Robbie Ray, Simeon, Gray. You already saw the other video, and I click out 5 lineups. I'm just wanting an idea. 5 lineups with 2 unique players gives me a little bit of variability. Gives me 5 lineups to choose from. They're all using the exact same player pool, which is sometimes lineup number 1 is the best. Sometimes lineup number 4 is the best on a given night. I don't know which combination is going to work, but that's why I know the player pool. The caching lineup is almost always in that player pool. We just have to select the right players. And however you determine what you like, whether you just always play lineup number 1 or you make some pivots here or whatever, that's up to you. The player pool in general is going to get you there, right? Like it's going to get you close. It's going to make you very competitive. So Robbie Ray's pitcher, Seth Brown, Marcus Simeon, Patrick Wisdom, Correa, Springer, O'Neill. This lineup's okay. But let's say I wasn't high on Acuna for whatever reason. I like taking big money in the utility because it gives me a lot of flexibility in where I might pivot. I don't want to use the word pivot like I'm fading a guy or trying to get leverage or any of that crap. Just changing a guy out. Like let's say Wisdom is not the most sound guy when it comes to cash games. Now he's cheap and he's in a viable spot and all of that. But Ramirez, Devers, those guys are expensive. Chapman in Toronto's okay. He's got good OPS numbers. Of course, Austin Riley's usually great. I don't know who he goes up against tonight. It's probably why he's a little bit lower owned. Erez is also good. Whatever. These would all be less than ideal plays, but I would be making that slightly less than ideal play. To hopefully use all of the other spots as chalky spots, and then use this one play to then get over the hump, the herd of everybody using optimizers and creating optimal lineups or whatever, right? Because again, if I'm a few points behind those guys, I can't catch them because we all have very similar players. If I'm a few points ahead of those guys, they can't catch me. So I'm trying to use what would be a sensible play that maybe isn't in this pool. Now I use the pool a lot. Like I run the regular lineups. I see them, I like them, I go boom, done, see ya. And it's easy peasy. I'm talking about on the nights when I maybe don't like everything that the lineup is producing, like tonight, like a Patrick Wisdom. I don't know who my alternative would be. I'd like to stay in the pool if I can. So if I want to get a Ramirez or a Devers, then I have to get money for Wisdom to get Wisdom out of there. That probably costs me Acuna or Springer, right? Doesn't matter. They're both outfielders. So let's say it costs me Acuna. I need a shorter player, like a smaller salaried player. Somebody that's also on the list, like a Kirk. Okay, that's fine. So I put Kirk in the utility. Now, wherever the hell he went, down here at the bottom. Now what that's going to give me is the opportunity to come up in Wisdom and then come back and change Kirk if I want. So if I take out Wisdom, I can play, well, I still don't have enough for these guys, so I still need money somewhere. Correa, Springer, okay, it costs me Springer. It's usually value in the outfield. There's Quan, whatever, at 3,000. Suzuki, 2,900. Yeah, probably Quan. It's okay. So now that I've got him and I've got Kirk, now I can maybe get Wisdom out of there, put J-Ram in, and now I've got about $500 in the utility. Now I have to be okay with Quan in the outfield, which I am. I'd be okay with Kirk in the utility. But now I've got $500 to see, okay, so if I like Haniger better, or Jimenez, or Polanco, or Tellez, I can come up off of that. Let's say I like my boy Jimenez. I've got 3 Cleveland guys. I may or may not want that, right? So I come down here and I say, all right, give me Haniger. Give me Pop and Tellez. He's going up against the Dodgers. It's a little risky. Jorge Polanco's had Pop lately. I can use him. And I've got this lineup, and it's kind of where I like it. But if I wanted to use Jimenez, I certainly could, right? Like I said, don't go over 3. But this is what I'm doing. That's it. I made a couple of pivots. They stayed largely within the pool, and then I reached out and maybe picked another guy up that I liked. Done deal. That would be a lineup I would run in cash. If it works, it works. If it's not the optimal lineup, it's not the optimal lineup. It's going to be different in a spot or two, even though it still projects pretty chalky. Look at how these guys are projecting. Okay? But now here's what I'm going to do. That's that. I'll run that in single entries. I'll run that in 3 maxes. I'll run that in cash games, whatever. That would be a lineup I'd be happy with. It may not be the one I settle on tonight, but it would be one I'd be happy with. So now what I want to do is I want to use the actual research station. Now I already know who's in my pool because, right, I'm clicking the names, I'm unchecking boxes. Now I know who they are, where they are, etc. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to first see if I can't find a solid pitcher that I like. Maybe somebody who's a little bit cheaper than the others. And I come down here, I K-score it, and I'm just looking for a combination K-score. Manaea would be a pivot off of Robbie Ray, right? Highest K-score on the slate. Saves me, what, $700? Is there anybody else that saves me significant money? Pivetta, I don't really trust. Pepia, I don't really trust. So that's about it, right? That's like the best I'm going to be able to do. Everything else is a dollar for dollar swap. So let's say I like Sean Manaea and say, okay, that's where I'll start. He's going to be a little bit under owned. He's going to be, second, third, fourth, fifth owned on the slate, whatever. He's not going to be the chalk guy, and he's going to be well under Robbie Ray. And if Robbie Ray implodes, if Robbie Ray has a good night, I'm going to be in trouble. But if Robbie Ray implodes, then I've got a good shot. And if the cheaper saves me enough money to get me onto some different bats or get me some bigger, studlier parts of a stack, and those go off, those might overcome a bad Manaea start and still give me chances, right? Now, Manaea can't be negative points most of the time, but he can be 20, 25 points. And if my stacks explode, then I'm pretty good there. So now that I've found a target in Manaea, I'm going to come over here to the hitters pool, and I'm going to try and find some bats. So I'm going to take that pitcher Woba allowed, sort by largest to smallest, and say, all right, there's Oakland. I don't know if they're going to be popular or not. Don't care. Not yet. Let's actually do leverage stacks. Open it, another tab. We'll come back to it in a minute. And so I'm looking for, well, there's a good stacking option, right? There's the Cubs. Okay. And who on the Cubs would I be targeting? Well, Contreras, right? Big Wobas. Wisdom's in good shape. So Wisdom, maybe I go back to my cash lineup after seeing this. Maybe I go back to my cash lineup and say, ooh, I want to put Wisdom back in there because he's in great shape. I can do that. It's not final yet, right? I see things as I'm researching. If I'm looking for pure power, I'm going to take Suzuki. Down here, he's got a little Woba, but he's got good power. And then that's about it. I might run 3 Cubs. Morel is okay, but Morel is apparently not very good against lefties for whatever reason. Maybe he's good against, maybe he's got, reverse splits where he's better against righties. I don't know. Anywho, St. Louis, good spot. Colorado, typically bad pitching. Kyle Freeland, great. So that's there's my stack. Cubs, Cardinals. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to use Manaea, and I'm going to see what I can get with Cubs and Cardinals. So where's old Manaea? He's down the list a little ways, right? 9,600 up. He's not even on the damn slate. He's on one of the early. No, he's on the early freaking slate. That sucks ass. But for Merrill Kelly's not terrible. Steele was okay. I need to look at those a little bit more and see where I might go. Morton was okay. Let's go ahead and just use Morton just for kicks because I want to do the Cubs and the Cardinals. Now, I already said with the Cubs, right? Like I would be using Wisdom, maybe Suzuki, and Contreras, right? So I'm going to start with those 2. And then I'll look for some of these other guys, right? But now let's go into the Cardinals. So I already know who I'm probably going to use for the Cardinals. And Research Station is going to confirm. It's going to be Goldschmidt and Arenado for sure. Let's get this back over here where we can look at it a little bit better. Where's my numbers? All right. So Goldschmidt for sure, big ISO, big Woba. Arenado, big ISO, big Woba. Dylan Carlson, solid against this handedness. Pujols, solid against. There's my 4. If I wanted to, I could use DeYoung for differentiation. I could maybe even use a Tyler O'Neill if I feel like he's getting hot. So it gives me like 5 or 6 bats to choose from that are viable options. That's where my flexibility in my lineup is going to come from in this particular stack. So I'm going to obviously load in. I can't use Arenado because of Wisdom. That sucks. I might need the value there. So that's fine. I've got other options, right? Like I've got O'Neill, DeYoung, Carlson, Pujols. Can't use Pujols because I used Goldschmidt and Contreras. It sucks because he's a great cheap bat, and that would get me up off of Morton into a higher pitcher that would be really low owned because dollar for dollar, people are going to shift onto Robbie Ray. But I'd have to fade Goldschmidt to do it. So if we're facing a lefty tonight, which we are, Kyle Freeland and the way Pujols swinging the bat, why the hell not? So I could use him. Now Goldschmidt's out. Arenado's out. This is a different. Now I might not like St. Louis as much anymore. right? Like I might look like my two biggest bats are gone. So I might not like them unless a Patrick Wisdom type qualifies for a different position. Please do, please do, please do. Third base only. Arenado, third base only. That really stinks. But I can come back down here watching how big this salary is going to start getting. I might come up off of Morton in my pitching if I can find something I like. And I still want to key on the Cardinals and at least see if I can make it happen. So that would mean the power hitters like O'Neill, Carlson's been a little bit of a power hitter. Don't really have anybody else. DeYoung at shortstop, hope for the best. And there's a four-man St. Louis stack. And it's going to be low owned. It's a 1, 2, 5, 7. It's going to be low owned. So I can come back to Cubs. I don't have to do a 4x3. I can do a 4x2. But come back to the Cubs. Maybe I pick up Suzuki in the outfield for raw power. And now my one-off is 5,500 for my second baseman. I come back up here to any team, second base, and I start looking at who can I afford. Of course, everybody, right? Muncy's been pretty hot. There's Jimenez again. Down here, some of these others, there's Jorge Polanco. Let's say I want to use Jorge Polanco for whatever reason. Now I've got 2,300 to upgrade my pitcher. I come up here and I come back to pitcher and I say, oh, Verlander, Cease. These guys are in good spots. Manoah, Cortez, whatever. Oh, Verlander, mow down the White Sox. Okay, let's take a shot on it. Boom, single entry lineup, $300 left over. Okay, that's just one way to do these things. If I want to pick up an alternative stack, I come back over here to my numbers here, my pitching numbers, and I say, okay, so St. Louis and Chicago is not a good blend. Maybe I need to find somebody that works a little bit better with them. I'm looking for pitchers that struggle with WOBA against. 339 is not that different from 340.5, and there's good old Cleveland. So if I look at Cleveland, maybe they pair better with Chicago. I would be using Ramirez. Well, that won't work with Wisdom, right? Unless they both take up the utility spot. Jimenez would be fine. Maybe Oscar Gonzalez with 350 WOBA. Or I can come down to Boston. They're next on the list. There's Devers, who's monster smashing, but nobody else in that lineup's really looking good. Minnesota's, now we're getting a little bit lower and lower and lower. And we might start checking some of the ownerships here and say, okay, now I've got St. Louis, which is going to provide some leverage, which is great. Cubs provide, again, that would be the ideal spot. But there's Boston, and there's Minnesota, right? And Toronto. They're all providing some leverage tonight. So if I come back down here and say, where in Minnesota would I go? Well, I'd go Buxton because, again, he's got good numbers. Correa, is that Correa or Polanco? That is Polanco. Correa's not bad with a 330, 160. Ara's a little weak on the ISO side. But, so I've got guys that I can mix and match. And I've just got to find a couple of lineups that work. Say, I want a St. Louis in Minnesota, or I want a Chicago in Minnesota, or I want a Chicago in Cleveland, or I want a Boston in Cleveland, whatever it is. I have to take these guys. These are my ideal stacks. These are the guys I would try to get at first. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, who in that stack is kind of like the must own? Who has the big WOBA and the big ISO? That's who I'm starting with. That's the guy. They're my core for that stack. They're the guys that I'm starting with. And I would love to find 3 or 4 of them. I can usually find 2 or 3. In some cases like the Cardinals or the Dodgers, I can find 4, 5, 6. And that gives me ultimate flexibility to start building the other stack first and then come back and fill in with whatever Cardinals or Dodgers I want. Because I've got so many options there, it doesn't really matter anymore. These are the things that you've got to do. You've got to, when you're hand building, you've got to just massage back and forth. You've got to be willing to give up on your priority. Oh, I like St. Louis a lot, but guess what? I can't use Goldschmidt. I can't use Arenado. Now that lineup is significantly weaker unless it goes off. It can go off with Pujols and O'Neill and DeYoung and whatever else. But I'd really rather have the other 2 guys in there. I can't use much outside of Suzuki, Wisdom, Contreras, and have any confidence in it in Chicago. So instead of, maybe I pair St. Louis with Boston or St. Louis with Cleveland or something along those lines and see what that gets me. Try to keep the gaps in my stacks minimized and see what that gets me. Some lineups come together easier than others. Sometimes I can't do a 4x3. I have to do a 4-2-2 or a 3-2-2 or something like that. Sometimes I can get a 4x4, which on a big slate like tonight is great because if that 4x4 smashes in both offenses, you're set up to win a lot of money. So again, you just have to play, mix and match and play and massage and go back and forth until you find something you like. That's really all this is from top to bottom. Cash game, GPP, any of it. That's all any of this is. Don't overthink it. See ya.